All right, guys, how's everybody doing? Here we are for chapter 3, and this is exciting stuff. I know I say that every time, right? It's like, oh, this is good stuff. But it is so, and I really think that there's going to be a lot of Christian worldview, biblical kind of spiritual application stuff with this. So let's just dive right in. I love this picture because you got this grandma talking to this 12-year-old kid with this huge mohawk. And I do. I just love that. I think it's neat when we see people jump across generations and connect. I just think it's powerful and beautiful. Okay, so I have always thought of the multi-generational process. As a Christian all my life, it's the sins of your fathers passed down from generation to generation unto the third and fourth generation. We've all heard that scripture. And yet it's interesting to me that there are other religions and people groups for thousands of years that have believed that or understood that. And there's a concept I want to throw out to you guys that's pretty deep in my thinking as as we talk about this, and that is spirit, soul, and body. And if you've been with me before, you've heard me talk about this. So when I treat a person, right, when I'm thinking about treatment, when I'm thinking about uh, theoretical stance, when I'm thinking about um, what is the problem, which is a theoretical a theories question, then I want to not get locked into, and sometimes Christians make the mistake of, and sometimes woefully, horribly make the mistake of, and it can be damaging, I believe, of, well, it's just all spiritual. And I'm like, well, did God not talk about emotions? Did King David not talk about emotions? Did Jesus not have emotions and display emotions and experience emotions? Is there not the physical? And did God not create the physical world? In fact, said, hey, there's no excuse for anybody. All you got to do is look at the physical world. Just look at the earth. Look around you. So all of these things are very, very important to God. So how is our healthiness and our unhealthiness passed down from generation to generation, right? And we tend as Christians to think of that spiritually, maybe only spiritually, but I want to encourage you to look at it from a spirit, soul, and body, all God ordained and all God created, but spiritually, soul. I think of soul as mind, will, and emotions, thoughts, emotions, uh, and um, and then the physical. We're learning an incredible amount in the neurosciences and biology in terms of what our DNA stamp really impacts our personality greatly. So it's not just one thing; it is multiple things, and we are not the only ones. We don't corner the market on understanding this concept of things being passed down from generation to generation. Now, certainly, Bowen talks about it from a Darwinistic, evolutionistic perspective, which but whatever, that's fine. Truth is truth is truth is truth. Even if a demon speaks it, if it's truth, then it's still truth, right? So, the demons, Jesus said, the demons know I am the Christ, right? They even say, well, then it's true, right? I don't care who says it. If it's true, it's true. So Bowen has some incredible insights into looking at this aspect of how things are passed down through the generations. And he likes to go back, like, 5, 6, 7, 8 generations, as much as you can. One of the places that talked about in the textbook, he was working with a family, and he got 300 years worth of good information. I'm like, whoo, that's that's a challenging deal right there. I'm like, man, I don't know how he did that, but he did. Um, so also he talks a lot about differentiation, your level of differentiation being passed down from generation to generation. And again, I would say some of that is a spiritual thing. Some of that is a soul thing, a simply learned behavior, observation of mom and dad. The textbook talks about an example where, okay, mom and dad, we've got the differentiation scale and remember, we're thinking about we're thinking continuums, right? So from 0 to 100, 100 would be a perfect differentiation score, 0 would be extremely weak differentiation score. So he talked about a mom and dad have about a 35, and the daughter's about a 35, and she picks a husband who is about a 35, right? It's like, oh, yeah, gee, a big shocker, right? So therefore, right, the pattern continues. And it talks about, well, they have a kid, and this kid is 40. That's still pretty low, and it's close. But the other two siblings are lower than the 35. So, and then there's the question, and one of you came to me recently. It might have even been in another class, so forgive me, but nobody will ever know, right? And talked about this. How can different siblings be raised in the same home, and one comes out strong and healthy, and the other comes out hurting emotionally and feeling like that they're not really apart and don't have any sense of belonging. And Bowen actually addresses that. Okay, I think I've covered everything on that. Uh, okay, so in terms of terms, he uses all kinds of terms, and most of them make pretty good amount of sense. But a lot of his terminology comes from biology. So even processes is kind of a bio. He's very much a scientist, and he wants things to be very biological, scientific kind of ish. Although yes, he's talking about psychiatry and psychology and emotions and those things as well. Um, so to think in terms of your emotional health, your level of differentiation, your level of independence versus connectedness, your urge for to be together and connected, need for approval of others versus your urge to do your own thing and take care of business yourself. So that balance, think of that as not just something that resides within you as though you are some isolated island, but literally your parents and of course, right, but your grandparents and your great grandparents and your great great grandparents and your great 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 grandparents. I think I got, no, I don't know if I got that right, but y'all with me, right? So these things are passed down, and you can, when you study, and this is the reason for genogram, one of the reasons for genogram, and certainly in Bowen's world, a huge part of it. You can really study this emotional process, these emotional levels of differentiation, these emotional levels of health, would be another way to say it, that goes back multiple generations, which is just cool as all get out to me. But okay, he started with the mother child. Symbiosis is another biology term, but he liked it and kept it. He actually almost kicked through that term out, but he's like, nope, I like it. Instinctive behavior, there's a little Freud thrown in there. Um, and so this could either help or hinder the child's level of dependence. So if the mother clings and or the child clings, right, if they're clinging to each other, and that goes on into late adolescence and early adulthood, then you have this messed up ability for a child to do their own thing, make their own decisions, those kinds of things. So you have an undifferentiated person as a result of the mother-child relationship. However, it doesn't just stop with the mother-child relationship. When he started at the NIMH, which is the National Institute of Mental Health, he worked with inpatient families. And guys, I'm talking about having this. I used to work in an inpatient psychiatric hospital for 7, 8 years. And I'm telling you what, if I could have had the whole family in there, I would have just been clicking my heels, jumping up and down, shouting hallelujah. Because there's so much going on with the entire family. You've got this poor symptom bearer, this one person who's sick, psychotic or suicidal or whatever the case may be. But it's this family dance. It's all this stuff going on with this family that Bowen was able to actually study. Now, when you look at this and it says months and years, you may, if you're thinking, you're going to say, wait a minute, inpatient for months and years? Yes, inpatient used to be measured in, and even in 80s, 3, 6, 9, 12-month periods. Somebody would stay inpatient. So he would, and sometimes people would be out of the hospital and back in the hospital. So he would literally be able to observe families for years. Um, so, and particularly, he did this one study that lasted 7 years, and he was able to keep in contact on and off, give and take, but but to a good degree, he was able to look at 14 families, and all of these families had someone in the family that had some kind of a severe psychosis, either either an adolescent or a young adult child of the family. So he started thinking about the mother-child symbiosis. We talk about that right here. And he moved to the father. I think that might be on the next page, or I didn't write it in here. But then he looked at, like, hey, this is not just mother-child. This is the father as well. And then he talked about triads, where he would look at families in terms of how everyone impacts everyone, right? But also he would break the family up into triads. So he would have mom and dad with kid number one, mom and dad with kid number two, mom and dad, oh, that sounds so impersonal. Yeah, my girl's thing one, thing two, thing three, thing four. Dr. Seuss. No, I didn't really call him that, but we did have the t-shirt. So it wasn't, he really moved way away from, and for a long time, even at this point, he was way away from an individual having a problem, right? So he's like, yeah, we're not even going to talk about that. It's not a thing. There's no such thing as just an individual isolatedly on an island having a problem within themselves. They are part of a family system. Then he said it's not just two people, right? So two people may be in particular conflict, but again, that is like the symptom bearer. They are a part of a larger group. Now, this is not about blame. And as a therapist, one of the things you want to, or if you're a pastoral ministry to someone, you really want to help people move away from blame. You say, oh, so you're saying it's my fault? No, I'm saying every one of us does the dance. Every one of us plays a part in it. So there are things that you can do that help, and there's things you can do that hinder. And what we want to do is emphasize and learn what are those things that we can do to help the family system be healthier and move away from those things that hinder. I love this quote because it says, sorry, I have two screens here, so I got to look at it. This one's bigger over here. I don't know which y'all are able to see. I really hope you're seeing the right one. I have no idea, but either way, it's okay. In every conceivable manner, the family is linked to our past and bridge to our future, by Alex Haley. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Bowen, right? That's Bowenian to the core, right? So in every conceivable manner, there is this multi-generational process of things being passed down, but it's also our future, right? We look at our children and like they are the future of this family. Anyway, I just thought I'm just looking through pictures. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's amazing. Lucked out on that one. Okay. So the family functions as a unit. There's no such thing as an individual. I mean, there is, but there's not. And it's a weird because well, we're talking about individuation. Yes, we are. But and autonomy and independence, yes. But there is this, again, that's a balance thing. And I think we've already done enough on that. Y'all are with me. Also, and when I talk to y'all about your papers, I'm like, I don't give me this, oh, we're all equally close. There is different levels of emotional intensity. There are different levels of like and dislike, and conflict and lack of conflict, and different levels of emotional connectedness between families, members of a family unit, right? And all of that affects everybody, and everybody knows it. Kids know it. Kids are like, oh yeah, so and so and so and so, they really get along, but so and so and so, they don't get along very good. It's funny to watch. They're so honest about it. Parents are like, oh no, it's all perfect equally with all of our children. It's like, no, it's really not. Sorry, but it's just not. And I'm really maybe blowing some of your minds and popping some of your bubbles and even making some of you angry as we talk about that, but it's just a fact. And it is a reality, and so hopefully you can get on board with that. I'm getting to the point of redundancy because here, point 3 here, it's like bullet 3, yes. I've already said that, so I'm just not going to say it again. Okay, so triads, we already talked a little bit about this. He used the concept of a three-legged stool, and these are the triads between the parents and each child. So if you, however many children, right? So I've got 4 children, so there would be a triad between my wife and I, I'm the oldest, my wife and I, the second one, and so on. Also, a move away from categorical thinking, which is labeling and isolating and categorizing, putting things in boxes, and moving to continuum thinking. And categorical thinking is a very Western way of thinking. Continuum thinking is much more Eastern, Middle East, Jewish, right? So learning to look at things instead of, it's this or this, let's look at it from we fit somewhere on this continuum and we move back and forth down this continuum as well. And that's something that Bowen emphasized a lot when he's talking about identifying where people are at in terms of their family. And continuum in terms of levels of independence or levels of individuation, being that that's a huge part of our whole topic here. Okay, so there's more in the book about biology, a little bit on it, not a whole lot. There's some other things, but again, I'm wanting to give you an overview, and I don't want to sit here for like an hour, and neither do you want to sit here and listen to an hour of video. So that's it for chapter 3. You guys do well. Enjoy. God bless, and I will see you for chapter 4. Thanks. Bye.